Hello everyone, it's me Kira Blava. In the previous video, we talked about types of IELTS. In this video, we're going to talk about format of IELTS. Talking about IELTS, there are four components of IELTS. These are the four components of IELTS: writing, listening, reading, and speaking. Now, talking about these three exams, writing, listening, reading, these three exams will happen on the same day without any break in the same sequence, starting with writing first, listening second, and reading last. Whereas speaking might be the day before these three or day after these three, depending on the test centers. Now, total duration of these three, writing, listening, reading, in short we call it WLR, is 2 hours and 45 minutes approximately. Precisely, it is 2 hours and 40 minutes exam, although there's no break in between, but still distributing question paper and collecting your answer sheet and again checking whether the audio is audible or not. That takes some time. So we can say that the exam is of 2 hours and 45 minutes approximately. Okay, now let's talk about the skills that are required for these components. For listening and reading, you require receptive skills. For writing and speaking, you require productive skills. Do you have any idea about what is receptive skills and what is productive skills? If not, then we're going to discuss right now. Okay, receptive skills simply means the ability to receive information. It simply is testing whether you can receive the information or not. In listening, the answer is or the information that you need is actually hidden in those audio, and all you need to do is receive that information. That is why you require receptive skills. In reading, your answers are hidden in those passages, and all you need to do is you need to read that passage and find that information, which is you need to receive that information. That is why all you need is receptive skills in terms of listening and reading. Now, talking about writing and speaking, in writing and speaking, the answers are not like hidden in those audio and in those passages. You get questions and you need to answer that. Your answers are not hidden in those questions. All you need to do is you need to produce your own answer. So in writing and speaking, all you need to do is you need to master this productive skills. That is the skill of producing the answer or producing the information. So this was about receptive and productive skills. Now let's talk about all these components in detail. Okay, starting the first one with our first component, that is writing. Writing, there are two tasks, task 1 and task 2. And you basically have 60 minutes to complete this both tasks. In task 1, you get a diagram, or you can simply call it infograph. Now, what is infograph? Infograph simply means information, graph means diagram. So simply you get an information diagram, and all you need to do is you need to write a report. You can get any diagrams like pie chart, flow chart, or line graph, or table, as well as bar chart, as well as maps, process, cycles. So you might get any of those diagrams. You're not going to get all of those diagrams. You're just going to get one of those diagrams. And all you need to do is you need to write a report. And while you write a report, you should make sure that you write at least 150 words. There's no maximum word limit, but there is minimum word limit. That is 150 words. If you are short of time, obviously you can write less than 150 words, but it will affect your score. To stay on safe side, write minimum 150 words. And highly suggested not to spend more than 20 minutes on writing task 1. Now in task 2, you will get a topic, but not a one word topic or 2 words topic like you get in your school time, where you were provided to write an essay like water and forest, and all you started was water is an important resource, forest is an important resource. But in this IELTS writing task, you won't get those 1 word or 2 word topics. And here you will get a statement, and they will ask you questions whether you agree or disagree with those statements. Sometimes there will be point of view and which you agree or disagree. Sometimes there might be two viewpoints and ask you to discuss both views and give your answers. And sometimes there might be like a statement and they will ask you what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages. So those are the topics or questions that you get in writing task 2, and all you need to do is you need to write an essay and make sure that you write minimum 250 words essay. So it means again here there is a minimum limit, that is minimum 250 words, but there's no any maximum limit. So you can write as much as possible. Always keep one thing in your mind, that the more you write, the more mistakes you make. So avoid making a lot of mistakes. So stay on safe side by writing minimum 250 words. Make sure that you're not writing more than 300 words. That way you can ensure making less errors, okay, especially grammatical errors. So make sure that you write minimum 250 words. There's no upper limit, but don't write more than 300 words. And the reason for that is, firstly, it's about the more mistake you make, and secondly, it's also about time. All you have is just 60 minutes to finish those tasks. So it's not about quantity, how much you have written will affect your score. It's about quality. What you have written will affect your score. Quality is more important than quantity. So don't spend too much time on writing like so many unnecessary stuff. Okay. And we are highly suggested not to spend more than 15 minutes. Okay. Now here, like we have got two tasks, 60 minutes, but here we're suggesting you to finish it within 20 minutes, and here we're suggesting you to finish it within 40 minutes. Why not 30 minutes and 30 minutes each? Now let's discuss about reason why not giving equal time priority to both of them. Okay. Firstly, it's about word limit. Okay. Firstly, the first reason is because of word limit. Here you need to write a minimum of 50 words, and here you need to write 250 words. So you need to write 100 words more than task 1. So that is the reason why you need to spend more time, since you need to write more words in writing task 2. Another reason behind this is, from writing task 1, all you get is 1/3 of total writing score, which is just 33%. So you just get 33% from writing task 1. Okay, out of 100, you just get 33% of the score from writing task 1, whilst you get 2/3 of total writing score, which is 67%. So in terms of marking criteria, we can see that writing task 2 carries more weight than writing task 1. So we need to spend more time on writing task 2 than on writing task 1. That's all about writing. Now let's move on to our next component, which is listening. In listening, there are 4 parts: part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4. And the total duration of listening is 40 minutes. So there are 4 parts: part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4. You get 40 minutes time to do this listening paper. Out of that 40 minutes, they will play the audio for 30 minutes. And during that time of 30 minutes, you're not just listening to the audio, but you're also writing your answers to those questions in your question paper. Okay. You also get, you get 40 questions in total. And while you're listening, you're writing the answer to these 40 questions from in your question paper. And that is because you can't memorize all those 30 minutes audio. So better, while you're listening, make sure that you write your answers in your question paper. After the audio stops, you are given 10 minutes extra, and that 10 minutes is for, so after the end of this 30 minutes audio, you'll be provided 10 minutes extra. That time, whatever you have written roughly in your question paper, you're going to transfer it to your answers. And always keep this in your mind: whatever written in your question paper is not marked or is not evaluated. The only answers that you have written in your answer sheet is marked. So make sure that you transfer your answers to your answer sheet effectively. Okay, make sure that there's no any spelling errors and there's no any confusion in those question numbers. If you transfer it incorrectly, let's say if you have transferred question number 9, answer sheet 10, and obviously all the following answers will be wrong. So make sure that your correctly transferring your answer to your answer sheet, because your answer sheet is what that is marked, not the question paper. So make sure that you transfer your answers to your answer sheet correctly. Okay. Now let's talk about mark. You get 1 mark for each correct answer. So 40 questions, you are going to get 40 marks in total, and 40 marks is equivalent to band score 9 in IELTS. Okay, so if you get all those 40 answers correct, you're going to get band 9. And the best part is no negative marking. If your answer is correct, you're going to get 1 mark for one question. Per question, you're going to get 1 mark if your answer is correct. But if it is incorrect, then you're going to get 0. You're not going to get minus points. That means there's no any negative marking. Now talking about all these parts. Now what are these parts? These parts are actually like, just imagine that listening to the same audio for 30 minutes in the same voice. Okay, talking about same subject. Wouldn't it be pretty boring? I guess it will be very hard to concentrate. So that is the reason why in IELTS, okay, they have categorized in different parts so that it can be more engaging. Okay, so in different parts we will get to listen to different voices talking about different topics. Okay, starting with part 1. In part 1 we get to listen to a dialogue. Part 2 we're going to listen to monologue. Part 3 again dialogue, and last part again we're going to listen to monologue. Context they are going to discuss will be social, academic, and academic. In part 1 we're going to listen to a dialogue. Majority of time we're going to listen to telephone conversation between two speakers, and it's based on social context, that means everyday situation. Let's say you're about to book a hotel, okay, book a room, okay, in a hotel, and let's say you're gonna book, like you're contacting a travel agency to book a ticket. So those kind of conversation you get to listen in part 1, telephone conversation. Obviously there's going to be 2 speakers. We can't speak to 4 or 5 speakers at the same time on telephone. That's not possible. So only 2 speakers. Okay. In part 2, it's going to be monologue. Monologue simply means you will have to listen to only one speaker voice, and it is based on social context, which means again everyday situation. Let's say tour guide planning a tour. So that type of conversation you get to listen in part 2. Not conversation basically, part 2 is a talks. That type of talk you get to listen in part 2. Okay, in part 3 you're gonna listen to a dialogue, but it is gonna be more complicated than part 1. And it is complicated because you get to listen to the voices of 2 to 4 speakers. Majority of time 2 speakers, sometimes 3 speakers, and really even 4 speakers. So it's going to be pretty challenging, but don't worry. You're going to listen to different voices, female voice and male voice, younger voice and older voice, that you can easily differentiate these voices. And it is based on academic context. That means the conversation is related to study. Let's say the conversation between teacher and student, or student and student, regarding project work, assignments or presentations, everything related to study. Now moving on to part 4. In part 4, you're going to listen to a monologue. There's going to be just one speaker, and again it is based on academic context. That means you are going to listen to a lecture, which is kind of university lecture. You can say that you get to listen to a university lecture based on science and history topics. Let's say sometimes it is about psychology. So you get to listen to some kind of talk in part 4, which is kind of university lecture. So this is all about listening. Now let's move on to our next section, which is reading. Now let's talk about reading. In reading, whenever we get the concept of reading, like maths, we need to do this reading. If we're not familiar with the format, all we think is we need to read in front of the examiner, like one by one, like this, in front of the examiner. But that is not true when we have class. We don't need to read in front of the examiner. We will get these 3 passages, and we need to find answers to these 40 questions within 60 minutes by reading these 3 different passages. Okay, and in each passage you get 14 to 14 questions, and you get 1 mark for each correct answers. That means you're going to get 0 if it is incorrect. And this part, no negative marking. There's no negative marking in IELTS. So that is the best thing about IELTS. If your answer is correct, you're going to get 1 mark. If not, you're going to get 0. Okay, but you don't have to suffer with those minus points. So if you're in, like, let's say if you're not finding any answers, you can guess something and write something. If it is correct, you can get marks, and if not, you can get 0, but no minus points. That is the best part about IELTS. Now talking about reading this 3 passages, majority of time, if you go through all those Cambridge books, you will find the first passage easiest one, and second passage moderate one, and the last passage difficult, which is toughest one. But remember that this is not like every time, okay? But majority of time, first passage will be easy, second passage will be moderate, and third passage will be difficult one. But sometimes there might be change in this difficulty level. First passage being the toughest one, and the last passage being the easiest one. So there might also be change in this sequence, but remember that majority of time it starts with easy and ends with the toughest one. Now let's talk about time. Okay, how much time we need to allocate for each passage. Okay, always remember that. Okay, as is like, especially when it comes to reading, students think that reading is tough, passages are tough, questions are tough. Nah. It's not the passage that is tough, it's not the question that is tough, but it is this time limitation that makes it more challenging. So if we are not able to manage time properly, then we cannot find answer to this 40 question on this 60 minutes time duration. So that is the reason why we need to learn to manage our time. Since the first passage is the easiest one, don't spend more than 15 minutes on first passage, 20 minutes on second passage, and 25 minutes on third passage. Okay. But there's no rule that we need to finish first passage within 15, second passage within 20, and third passage within 25 minutes. They will set the timer of 16 minutes, and all we need to do is finish all those 40 questions within 16 minutes. There's no rule that we need to spend 15 minutes or 20 minutes in this first passage, but highly recommended spend not more than 15 minutes in first passage, 20 minutes on second passage, and 5 minutes on third passage. Now let me tell you why. Because here we can see the level of difficulty is different. So spend the least amount of time on the easiest one and more amount of time on the toughest one. And you might say that you can finish this within 10 years, and you're setting the target of 10 minutes. If you can finish it on time, that's good. But let's set realistic goal. So 15 minutes passes 1, 20 minutes passes 2, and 25 minutes passes 3. Now that's all about reading. Now let's move on to our last section, that is speaking. Now talking about speaking is the easiest one as well as the toughest one. Do you know why? Okay, now let's talk about why speaking is the easiest one. Speaking is the easiest one because you don't need to read all those vast passages. You don't need to write. All you need to do is speak, and just by speaking, you're going to get a score. So we can say that speaking is the easiest one out of all. So we don't need to put much effort. We get scores simply by speaking. So we can say that this is easiest. Now, why it is toughest? Okay, it is toughest because of various reasons. Okay, firstly, it's not our native language. Okay, taking me as an example. My native language is Nepali. So in my language ranking, Nepali comes in first. And after that, I'm like, my mother tongue is Tamil. So it comes in my second rank as I learned those languages, as I learned Tamil from my parents. So it comes in second position. And since childhood, I have been watching Hindi movies and I have been influenced by Hindi movies. So I know some basic Hindi language. So you can say that it comes third in my language ranking. And I have spent my schooling learning English. That means my medium of instruction was English. So in this language category, it comes in fourth position. Okay, it comes in fourth rank. So how can we expect to speak like a native speaker or speak like first language when it comes in our fourth position? So the reason why it is toughest is because it's not our native language, or it's not our mother tongue, or it's not our first language. And another reason why speaking is tough is you might get asked questions that you are not familiar with. So you might get familiar questions as well as unfamiliar questions. We don't know what questions we're going to get. So that is the reason why speaking is tough. Now, talking about parts of IELTS, there are 3 parts of IELTS: part 1, part 2, and part 3. Total duration of IELTS speaking is 11 to 14 minutes. 11 to 14 minutes, whether it is whether you're appearing in computer-based IELTS or paper-based IELTS, you need to face an interview. You need to give like face-to-face interview in the speaking exam. In some test centers, for some test centers, you need to go there physically and need to take those speaking exams physically. Whereas in some test centers, you will be provided with the option of video calls. So if you are a shy person, you can also go with video calls. But best part about IELTS is face-to-face speaking interaction, because that has to boost our confidence. So better go with physical interaction. Only if there's no there's no situations like COVID, that are no options. It will be like you needed to go through video calls, but right now we are safe from COVID, we can say that. So we need to appear face-to-face interaction, and some test centers also allow with the option of those video calls, but also go with physical face-to-face. Okay, that is highly recommended because that has to build your confidence. Okay, now the total duration of IELTS speaking exam is 11 to 14 minutes, and there are these 3 parts. In part 1, you'll get introduction. Not you'll get introduction, but in part 1, you need to give introduction. Examiner will introduce himself or herself and ask you for your introduction. So it starts with introduction. After that, you might get some questions that are easy to answer. That was a great question on familiar topics. You won't get questions like who's the first president of United States of America, not IQ related question. Chill. You're gonna get questions related to familiar topics like who's your favorite singer? What kind of chocolate do you like? Do you like t-shirt? What kind of t-shirt do you like? Okay, and some questions about you, like do you work or study? And where's your hometown? What's your hometown famous for? What do you like about your hometown? What do you dislike about your hometown? So familiar topics questions, okay? And in part 2, you'll get a booklet, which used to be called cue card, but that one is quite outdated. So now we prefer to call it booklet. And you get, first, what is booklet? You know the meaning of booklet. Booklet simply means question paper, okay? You're going to get question paper. In part 2, you're going to get a specific question paper. Examiner will hand over you specific question paper, and you will get 1 minute time for preparation. This is the only part in IELTS speaking where you can make notes, and examiner even provide you paper and pen to make notes. Although it's a speaking exam, this is the only part where you can write and make notes. You get 1 minute preparation time. After the end of 1 minute, you need to speak on that provided topic for 2 minutes. So you need to give a speech on that provided topic for 2 minutes after the end of this break time, which is of 1 minute. And the most challenging thing is that you might get topic familiar to you, or you might get topic which is unfamiliar to you, and you cannot ask the examiner to change the topic. Okay? Just because you are not familiar with that question, or you cannot say that this change the question. I don't know about this. You can't say that whatever question has been provided to you, you prepare only for 1 minute and you need to give a speech on that topic for 2 minutes. You cannot ask for another topic in this part. Now moving on to part 3. In part 3, you're going to get, so in part 3, you're going to get follow-up questions related to part 2. Let's say in part 2, you got a question like, describe a restaurant that you have visited recently. Let's say you got some hints like what's the name of that restaurant, or and another one like where is it located, what do you like about it, what do you dislike about it, and explain why you would recommend it to others. Let's say you have question like that in part 2 related to restaurant. Then in part 3 you will get questions related to part 2 like why do people prefer to celebrate special occasions on restaurants? Or do people in your country prefer to eat out or eat at home? So basically related with dining. So which was the question of part 2. So in part 3 you get questions related to part 2. So now this is all about IELTS speaking. That's the end of our class. Please kindly support us by pressing like, subscribe and share button. See you in our next video. Please stay tuned. Thank you.